So we'll start at the very beginning, a very good place to start. Now, when you get into a cell culture laboratory, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to want to turn on your BioSafety cabinet. And so we're going to do that, in this case, by just pulling up the sash. Some BSCs require you to push some buttons, this one doesn't. So automatically in this case, the fan comes on, the lights come on, and you're almost but not quite ready to start. Now, if you raise the sash too high, this cabinet will complain. So it's going to make some noise. So you need to lower it to the right level. How do you know what level is right? Well, if you look to the left here, you can see down here, there's an indication for the sash level. So your glass should be level with this arrow here. Now, I said that you're not quite ready to start working because the airflow needs to stabilize. So usually somewhere on the BSC, there's going to be a little screen. In this case, it's inside the BSC, tells you to please wait. Okay, so right now the airflow is stabilizing, so air is flowing into the vent over here. It's going to go filter through the HEPA filter and come down onto the surface. So it takes a little time for that to stabilize, to generate that stable curtain of air. While that's happening, what we can do is we can wash our hands, and we can remove any jewelry that might be on our wrists. So in this case here, I'm wearing a watch, so I'm going to take that off. If you're wearing bracelets, that sort of thing, make sure you take that off as well. And then we'll come back here with our hands washed and with our gloves on. There's one other thing you might want to do before putting on your gloves, and that's make sure that your chair is at the right height. Okay? So what is currently happening is that I am too low. So if I'm going to be working at the BSC with a chair at this level, my arms are going to be constantly covering this vent. Okay, so if you look down here, my arms are constantly going to be covering this vent because I'm too low. So what you need to do is raise your seat. So we're going to do that until I am fairly high and I can insert my arms pretty easily in. Okay, and I don't have to worry about covering the vent. Okay, so I'm going to use this BSC because it's been running a bit longer, so the airflow has stabilized. I'm going to just put on my gloves. My hands are clean. There are no bracelets or watches on my wrists, so nothing that could potentially dislodge skin cells that could fall into my samples. I'm going to put on my gloves, make sure they're nice and tight. Okay, your gloves should be a second skin. Okay, and I'm ready to start working. So I'm going to just raise the sash again to the appropriate level. Now this one has stabilized airflow. And if you look at this screen over here, it says OK in the upper left-hand corner. So that means that it is able to be used at this point. So let's get started by spraying down our work area. I'm going to hold my wrist. I'm going to hold my lab coat on my wrist. And I'm going to just gently wipe, just to spread out the ethanol. I'm not trying to wipe it off. Okay. Next, I'm going to start preparing my work area. So I'm going to put in the tools I'm going to need. So okay, test tube rack. It doesn't matter if it's a little slippery, it's not going to fall on my hands, and I'm not going to be handling it, so it doesn't have to be wiped. Next, I'm going to need one of these tubes. Again, they're sterile on the inside. I'm just sterilizing on the outside. Disinfecting on the outside. Again, not trying to wipe it completely. Okay. Media, especially around the opening. Make sure you spray that well. And we'll need some pipettes. So I will need 2 pipettes. I will take 3 because I want to show you something else. I will take 3 of these as well. I really just need 2 and 2, but I'm going to show you this protocol twice. Okay, so again, I'm just spreading the ethanol over the surface. I'm not trying to dry it. Okay, and they're inside. I can see that there's a bit of ethanol here, so I'm going to wipe that up, clean it up a little bit. And the thing that caused some problems for some of you is protocol. So I'm going to have my procedure, sort of, a short version of it, written out on a Post-it note. Post-it notes are your best friends in this case. And just stick it somewhere where you can see it clearly and it doesn't interfere with your view of your work area. Okay? So here we are, almost ready to start. We just need a plate. Okay. Again, I don't need to make it soaked, and I also don't need to wipe it completely. Okay, and my cell culture. Okay, I'm going to spray my gloves as well. Okay, so I'm just going to move myself a little closer in to my work area. And now insert my arms, and at this point I want to continue just working inside the BSC. I don't want to be coming out for any reason unless absolutely necessary. Okay, so let me just move my things a little closer and loosen the caps of everything so that they're easier to open, and I'm less likely to knock them over. Okay, so I need to prepare a plate and a tube with some media and cells. So here is my pipette aid. This button sucks up liquid. This one allows it to drain. Okay, and I need 8 milliliters of media and 5 milliliters of media for the tube, and then 2 and 2 of culture. Okay, so I'm going to insert it in. I'm going to move the pipette or rotate it in such a way that the numbers that make sense to me are facing me. So there's 2 different numbering schemes on pipettes. Make sure that the one that makes sense to you is facing you so that you don't have to be doing weird things with the pipette once you are working. I can take off the sleeve. I can take out my media and transfer 8 mils onto a plate. Okay, so you can put this back in its sleeve and set it down here. And what I can do then is take my 5 mils of media and put it into the tube. Okay, and again, you might have noticed that I put the media tube in a different place this time, further away from myself, because I'm done with the media, so I'm just kind of marking that for myself as that part is done. I'm going to then go ahead and add the culture. Okay, so I need 2 milliliters of culture. And again, make sure you rotate it until the numbers that make sense to you are facing you. Here's my culture tube. I'm going to take, oops, wrong button. 2 milliliters. And to the tube. And again, you could change pipettes, but I haven't touched anything, so I'm just going to use the same pipette and add to the plate. Okay. And so you'll notice I have a clean area, a work area, and a dirties area. I haven't had to come out of the BSC. I've been working in there, and I've been minimizing how much I disturb the airflow inside the BSC. Once I'm done, I can take out my plate and my tube out, Now, I did not put in my marker, so I cannot label it in here just yet, but let me just put a marker inside. I'll take my Sharpie. And okay, so I can label. So I'm just going to put my name on this. Oops, looks like we've got some ethanol still on this plate, so. Now, normally you would put down the cell culture as well as the date of the lab and so on, okay? And again, same here, I'm going to label this. Okay, so I can take these out and put them away and potentially continue working if necessary, or just clean up, okay? Now I'd like to show you one other way that I could have done this that requires the use of fewer pipettes, okay? So I'm just going to set these aside. So here's the other way I could have done this. All I need for this is just 2 pipettes, one 10 ml pipette and a 5 ml pipette, okay? So in this way we could minimize how much waste we produced in this type of lab. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the 10 ml pipette in a way that most students are not really used to using, okay? So I'm going to take a look at this thing to show you really quickly. So you'll notice that we have this pipette, it's a 10 ml pipette, so from the tip all the way up to the 0 here, that's 10 milliliters. And then if you look closely, you'll notice there's a -1, -2, and a -3 on here, which means that technically this pipette could accurately measure up to 13 milliliters. Okay? Now in our case with a procedure, you can see that what we need is 8 mils of media and 5 mils of media. So together, that makes up 13 milliliters, so that's perfect. Okay? So what can I do? I'm going to use the full pipette, and I'm going to open it up by separating the 2 layers instead of breaking the paper. Okay, again, there's just a different way of doing this. I'm going to turn it until those numbers, the -3 and -1, -2, are visible to me, so I can measure that accurately. I'm going to take my media. I'm going to take out 13 milliliters this time. Okay, so I'm going to take up 13. Now be very careful when you are filling the top of the pipette. You don't want to go too far up. Okay. So I'm almost out. Okay. All right, that's roughly 13 milliliters. Okay. Now I'm going to transfer 5 milliliters of that into the tube. Okay, so that's going -3. That's 1 milliliter, 2 milliliters, 3 milliliters, 4, 5 mils. And the remaining 8 mils is going to go on a plate. So here we go. And I can do the same thing with a 5 ml pipette. Again, I'm going to be transferring 2 milliliters onto the plate of the culture and 2 milliliters into the test tube. So I just need 4 milliliters in total. So again, I can use this one pipette. Where's my... Okay. And I'm going to take 4 mils. And then just add 2 and 2.